Getting access to quality satellite imagery like Sentinel-2 or Landsat and QGIS hasn't always been easy. You have to go out to some web portal, download a bunch of files, and then bring that into QGIS. But thanks to spatiotemporal asset catalogs, actually finding and using that data has been a little bit easier. The only problem is most of this data is hosted on Amazon Web Services, like tools like S3, and bringing that into QGIS also isn't the easiest process. But fortunately, there is a plugin that will help with that, and we're going to show you how to use that today. So before we begin, I want to tell you a little bit about STAC Catalog or Spatiotemporal Asset Catalogs. This is basically like a reference system that allows you to reference imagery by location and time and allows you to actually access that both as an API but also as a browser-based tool. Now, a lot of imagery providers are shifting to using this because it makes it easier to look and find specific chunks of data that you care about in specific areas or specific times rather than downloading lots of rasters. It also gives you a common specification to do this across any different type of imagery. So basically, the more people that adopt it, the more people that can use it through one single easy to access endpoint. Now, like I said, one of the providers that's actually leading the way on this is AWS. AWS hosts a lot of this data for free. If you go to here, aws.amazon.com/earth, you can actually see that, and you can click Explore Geospatial Datasets. One of the first ones that'll pop up here is Sentinel-2. So we'll go ahead and click on that, and you'll see over here on the right-hand side, there's a few different options to actually explore this data. You can actually explore it using the AWS resources if you want to do it that way. But you'll see here there's two links, which is the Earth Search STAC L1C collection and Earth Search STAC browser collection. So if you want to click this link here, that'll bring you to this web interface, which will allow you to actually see some of the imagery in a web-based portal. Now, this effectively allows us to look at a STAC endpoint, but through a browser-based tool, which is really nice. So this browser tool allows us to add some different filters. We can add a spatial extent here, and let's actually go ahead and filter this data. So in this case, we'll look at some imagery around Cape Town, South Africa, and we can use that spatial extent here to actually filter the data. So if we submit that, you'll see we'll get some different imagery back here, and that will tell us what's in that specific area and what's available. So this is some of the imagery that's actually available. If I click in here, you'll see what that looks like. And then you can see all the different bands and different data that comes with that. So here's what that looks like. And then you can actually get the URL for that data in S3. So this is the area that covers, but effectively that's what a STAC endpoint does. It allows you to filter both by area, by time, and then look through different data sets. Now, a lot of times people are accessing this data through Python, and of course you can go through the browser and click and do the filter and download all the files you need, but having that integrated into QGIS and just being able to grab your files quickly is a lot easier. And that's what the QGIS plugin does here. It's the STAC API browser plugin for QGIS. Now, this does quite a bit and actually allows you to connect to different STAC endpoints and pull in any data that's hosted at an HTTP endpoint. Now, why do I say that is because this plugin was supported at some point, but it's currently basically in maintenance mode due to lack of funding and other resources. So I actually found a pull request to try to do this. I tried to modify the code myself and make it work. Unfortunately, it did not, but there's still plenty of data that we can work with in the plugin today. So let's go ahead and get started. If you go over here to QGIS, you can open plugins, go to manage and install plugins. It's going to connect to the QGIS plugin repository, and you can go here and search through the different types that you have access to. Now, so if you go ahead and search for STAC, it should be one of the few options here, and you can see here's the STAC API browser. I already have that installed, so you'll just be clicking install. You can reinstall it if you want or do anything there, but effectively that's what you want, and you're going to be looking for this icon to pop up in your QGIS browser. So once I go ahead and click that, you'll see I have a few different options here. These four should pop up right away. The one we're going to be using is Earth Search. Now, you can actually connect to the planetary computer from Microsoft. That project, I believe, has been sunsetted, so it may or may not be active by the time you watch this, but if you do, you can actually grab this here, and you can enter your own endpoints, which I did. So this is the endpoint for the planetary computer STAC endpoint. You basically want to have this option selected for a SAS token, which is the authentication system. You don't need to do anything with it because it's openly available, but that's what you can do there. So what I'm going to do is actually go to Earth Search, and what you can do here if you don't see anything pop up is hit Fetch Collections. That's going to show you all the data that's available. Now, the tricky thing that I mentioned earlier is that these two, the L1C and L2A, are actually hosted at S3, so it doesn't actually download that data. But for some reason, this L2A cloud optimized GeoTIFF option is, which is great. So we can actually grab some data from that endpoint. So that's the one we'll be using today to demonstrate this functionality. Now, first I want to find my area of interest. So I'll open up an OSM base map here, and I'm just going to zoom in to the area I want to cover, which is here in Cape Town, South Africa. So I can zoom into whatever I want to look at here, and back in the STAC and back in this interface, just like we did in the browser option, I'm going to go ahead and use the map canvas extent, which is going to filter by what I'm showing on the map canvas here. Like I said, you can add date functions here to filter by date, anything you want to do there, but we'll just leave it like that for now and go ahead and hit search. You can see here, here's all the options that start to pop up. You'll see a little thumbnail or preview of the data here. And then you'll get also some information about the cloud coverage. So you can actually see here what the cloud coverage looks like. Well, let's look for some imagery that's pretty clear and has some information about what we want to take a look at. So we'll just keep clicking through till we find what we want. Okay, so I found some imagery that looks pretty good here. As you can see here, it has only 1.2% cloud cover. It's covering this area around Cape Town that we want to look at. So this looks pretty good. What I can actually do here is take a look at where this area covers. So I can select footprint by checking that and then add that footprint to the map so I can see here what this is actually covering. So this is the area that that imagery covers, just shown on the map here, which looks good. We can kind of toggle that off to see. That looks great. So going back here, then I want to effectively click in and view assets here. Now this will give me a few options as I can actually download this data or load it as a layer. I recommend downloading it so you can actually keep it on your machine. But before you do that, you want to go into settings here and actually designate a place for that to download. So if you see here, I have a folder here called Sentinel. These are some of the downloads that I pulled in before, and that's where this data is going to drop into. So you give it a specific place where you know that data will go into and go from there. So if we go here to our results, let's go ahead and click View Assets, and then you can download what you want. If you want to get the thumbnail, you can, but you want the metadata, the true color image, and then you can get all of the different bands as well, and you can download all of those. So I'm just going to grab everything here. One part that isn't great is there's no select all button, but so you have to actually individually click all the layers that you want, but let's go ahead and do that and then hit download the selected assets. And if you see up here, it's actually downloading and pulling everything in. So this is actually data that is hosted on S3, but since it uses that HTTP endpoint, it can download it and pull it in easy enough for us. So as this downloads, it's actually going to download into that data folder that I mentioned before, and then it should load up into the map once that's complete. So let's come back and see how that data looks once we grab it in. Okay, so as you can see, our data has started to load in. I have my blue band here. I have my coastal band here. But here's the true color image, which can tell us what the data really is. And you can see that, yep, here we go. We got our data here. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. And we can start to see what looks like satellite imagery, buildings, and all the different things on the ground here. So you can take this and do effectively any type of analysis that you want with it. If you just need the imagery itself, if you want to use it in some other toolkit in Python or machine learning, or if you want to use the semi-automatic classification plugin, that's actually what I'm going to do in my next tutorial to show you how to classify some data here using that. So stay tuned and check out that video up here.